Hello again. Welcome to another session of Seasoned Citizens Present. Today, I'm very happy to present in our chambers, if I may say so, Judge Robert K. Stohr, who is retired from District Number 7. Welcome, Your Honor, today to the chambers of our studio.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, let's start, Judge, if we may, upon your arrival into the world. You were a Muscatine native, is this correct?
Right.
Okay.
1913.
You don't have to divulge that if you'd rather not.
Well,
you are a Muscatine native.
Yeah. 1117 Oregon Street.
1117 Oregon Street, right in Muscatine South.
Right in Muscatine, right.
Okay. Then your education started through the grade schools of...
Went to Garfield, and then Garfield to high school, and high school to... Went out here to the junior college for 2 years.
Oh, you went to MCC, it's called now Junior College then.
Junior college, yeah.
Okay, then from there, what was your
University
further
of Iowa.
education? University of Iowa.
Right.
Is that where you received your law degree?
Right.
University of Iowa. Where did you start your first practice then?
Muscatine.
You were right here?
Right here in
Were you
Muscatine.
associated with someone?
No.
You were on your own?
Back in those days, they didn't associate.
They
very
didn't
much.
have a whole group of names like they seem to have any longer.
No.
So you practiced law in what year did you start there?
1937.
37 was, okay. Then somewhere along the line you met a very lovely lady.
Right.
Esther, I don't know the maiden name.
Kuhn.
Kuhn. Was she a local girl too?
Yes, she was a local girl.
And you became enthralled with her and became married.
Right.
And that was in what area?
1940.
Okay, now we're married and we're practicing law. Then came a Holocaust. World War II arrived.
Right.
You immediately went into the service. Well, I should say immediately, I should say...
enlisted in June of 1942.
1942, which was fairly immediately.
Yeah.
It wasn't too long after December 7th. Okay, you went, what was your service time, if I may judge?
Well, I got to go to Quantico. I got to be 90 days. They gave you a second lieutenancy. They called it the 90-day wonder.
I recall that name.
And then they kept you for another 90 days and gave you the reserve officers training. And then they shipped you out.
Where did you end up?
Well, we started out at Guam. And then, not Guam, I'll take that back, Samoa. American Samoa.
Okay.
Then we went back to the Hawaiian Islands, Maui, and joined the 4th Division. Our regiment joined the 4th Division. And then from there we went into the Marshals. That was our
Okay.
first.
And then what, you were discharged as a captain, or what rank?
First lieutenant. at that
First
time.
lieutenant,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, then you came back to the Muscatine area.
Right.
And started the law practice.
All over
Okay.
again, right.
But still on your own. You still weren't
On my own, right.
moving in with
Always
anyone.
have been. So.
You never ever joined any
No,
firm as
no,
well. Like
no.
you said, in those days they were not that presentable anyhow. You didn't have that many. I can recall that myself. There weren't that many.
Very
around,
few
but-
partnerships,
Yeah.
actual partnerships.
Yes,
back in those
yes.
days, yeah.
Okay. How do you feel that you were honored by becoming a judge? Were you in a political arena, or I don't know if that was if that's a proper word or not, but obviously you were appointed by the governor, as I understand. Now, how do you feel that you were given that gift? Obviously you had a gift, or they would have not recognized you as being a potential judge to be honored with that honor, I would think.
Well, let's see. We had, at that time, they had this new system where you were not elected. They took the judges out of politics.
Right.
And then they had a commission who listened to you, and they would pick 2 of those who might be interested.
Well, they actually interviewed you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they sent the 2 to the governor, and then the governor picked 1.
Okay.
And I was fortunate to be the one picked.
Lovelace?
No, it was...
I'm trying to think back who would be governor at the time.
I can't think either at the moment.
should
It's,
ask
he was the one that was... he went on to be senator, United States senator.
Oh, yeah,
Here we go.
the gentleman that had a drinking problem.
He had a
right?
drinking problem,
Right.
and
We know those facts.
Yeah,
His
and
name.
he was a good governor.
Oh, yes.
And a good senator, but
Yes, ended up quite highly respected, really.
very much so.
Yes.
I
Funny
guess-
enough, that's not important, but
Hughes.
we heard that from the background. Hughes was the gentleman's name, right?
Right.
That was the governor at that time that made the
Made the
grand
yeah.
appointment of your becoming a
Right.
judge in the... Were you always District 7?
Yes.
I assume, and District 7, if my mind You're obviously going to have to correct me on this. It's Muscatine, Scott, and Jackson,
And Clinton.
and Clinton,
And now, at that time it wasn't, but then Tipton, or
Cedar County.
Cedar County's been added
That's
to it.
also into it
Yeah,
now.
and
Okay.
to it, yeah.
Well, then became the fact of your sitting on the bench, which it's got to be a situation that I would find tough to take. Did you have a time relating to becoming a, I mean, you hear so many things and have to be judgmental on so many factors. Is this a problem? Do you find it to be?
Not really. You work into it, you develop
Surely.
into it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of them are tried by jury, obviously.
Most of your criminal
you didn't
cases
have
are
to
tried
make
by jury.
that
right,
many
yeah,
judgments
yeah,
on your own
Right.
that you'd have to sentence death or anything like that.
Oh,
I don't
no,
think we've had
no,
the death
no.
penalty in Iowa for so many years anyhow. You probably never ever
Never had it, no.
had that problem of being made to make a judgment of that fact, sentence
right.
death or
No.
anything. Do you recall any, not naming particularly, you recall any particularly fascinating statements that you'd heard in the court? It fascinates me to think that you have to sit and listen to the testimony, make judgments. I mean, you hear all the time, I object, and all the different things that then you have to make a decision on. That it's either a viable objection, or it's just hearsay, or like to say, that's hearsay. Are these things, you learn them in, it's a judicial term, I realize, so you learn them in becoming a lawyer, I'm sure.
That's right. It's
So,
25 years before I went on the bench, so you're pretty well educated.
you
pretty
have
well
an idea of what's
going to go.
right.
Yeah. So no, it isn't. It isn't as bad or hard as it sounds.
Well, no, I mean, you were there, so obviously you have that way of making it. Like I say, looking from my area, or most people's area, they're going to think, boy, I bet that'd be tough to sit up there and have to make those monumental decisions against someone, particularly after a jury. And of course, jury made the decision, guilty or not guilty, and then all your, and I guess sometimes you send it back to the jury to make the decision of time, whether they should have a life term or whatever. That was always yours.
No, we don't have that.
You don't have that here, okay.
In other words, what they have is, for example, a certain crime is a Class D felony, and then that is not to exceed. This is interesting. It's not to exceed 5 years. And a Class C is another crime that's not to exceed 10 years. Another is Class B, not to exceed 50 years. And the Class A, which would be murder, rape, or something, kidnapping, is Class A. And so actually...
It's all predetermined pretty much.
Pretty much
Yeah.
predetermined, right.
All you have to find is determine the degree, and that's predetermined before you go to
that's
court,
predetermined,
actually.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, someone
yeah,
that, who does that? Who makes that,
The legislature.
legislature is the
Yes.
one that's determined. Well, I mean, an individual case, so a case is coming up, there's a misdemeanor, and then there's felony. Now, there's a fine line there, too. Is that up to the law enforcement to make that judgment, to send them to the court?
The county attorney usually
County
makes
attorney,
it. Yeah,
okay.
he makes
That
it.
goes back
As a
to
rule, he
the-
makes that decision, yeah.
He's the one that says this will be tried as.
Yeah.
Of course, he's usually the gentleman that has to try it on the
Right.
state side, and then the prosecution, then the defendant then has to either hire, or public defendant does have.
The public defender, if they haven't the money, and they have to fill out an affidavit to the effect of what they have, their assets. And if they determine that they haven't sufficient assets, then John Wander, who you've probably heard about,
Yes.
has
there's a
been,
local,
was appointed the public defender. And if he's got too many, and they do have quite a few, then they have to go to the other attorneys in the...
I see
law.
recently he said he didn't wish to defend two people in the same offense. So, and he asked for help, and then they appointed someone else. Now, you're traveling. As we mentioned, the counties that you covered, were you in session at different times then? Is that how it was relegated out? You had June maybe in Muscatine and July? Is that how it worked?
It was regulated. In the beginning, you had to spend, according to the law, 2 months, or had to spend a time in each county. In other words, they were nice about it. They said you could stay home in January, February, and March, the bad months, in June, July, and August, this is the hot months. But then in, let's see, we used to go to Muscatine for April and May, Scott County for November and December, and Clinton for, let's see, well, anyway, we got 2 months in Clinton, too.
Oh,
so,
I see. That's how they relegated.
That's
Now
how
they
they-
have to split a little more because now Cedars brought in.
Cedars,
tonight,
and we have more
so-
judges now, too.
Oh, there are more judges. What?
Yes.
Well, that's a moot question. How many were at the time you were on the bench?
There was one in Clinton, one in Maquoketa, one in Muscatine, and 2 in Davenport.
And Scott, because of the
Scott, yeah,
population, I
right,
suppose,
right, right.
that's how it's determined, I
Yeah.
assume. And they, in turn, would be just opposite of what you were doing, I
Yes.
assume, in the sense of
That traveled,
traveling.
too. We all
Yeah.
traveled.
Yeah.
That was,
Well, that's interesting. You know, I mean, you see these things, you just don't realize just how much is involved, that you do have to go from place to place. You're not just sitting at home here and going down to the courthouse each day to hear and see.
one thing was that Clinton and Maquoketa were both 75 miles from Muscatine.
Equal amount.
We used to drive up to DeWitt. We'd go to DeWitt, and then there was a sign at DeWitt said north, Maquoketa was 19 miles. East, Clinton was 19 miles.
Well, that was real unique, wasn't
Yeah, it was
it? I
unique,
don't
right.
think I've been aware of that before because it didn't come up in any particular areas. So that's something different too. Again, I like to keep back into the court and visit about divorce actions. Sometimes they got rather nasty.
They could very much.
You
yeah.
know, I mean,
especially with kids.
with children, or
Yeah.
how about money?
Well, so many times it was adding up the debts, not the
Yeah.
assets. It was-
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So that
But
isn't
it
quite-
could be a problem, yes, to divide up
Sure.
a house with a mortgage and.
Usually try to predetermine that before they come in court, I assume. I mean, each individual would ask what they felt they should deserve of it.
No, they had to fill out an affidavit ahead
Well,
of
they
time.
did. They had to do it
show
then.
all of their assets, all their liabilities, and then from that you could get a pretty good idea of.
Well, then you made the decision how it would be,
yeah.
actually.
And they tried to divide it pretty well, pretty much equally.
Most of the time.
Most of the time,
It isn't
yeah.
like, you see, I don't know whether you want to get into this, but I'd like to present this as a question. What do you think of plea bargaining that's so evident nowadays?
If without it, you'd be swamped.
Well, I see from your angle the problem, but then in reverse action, I see too often where, and not your fault particularly, because like you say, what can you do? There's no place to put some of these people. But sometimes some of these people get out when they shouldn't be out. And I see no action that can be taken on it. It's just unfortunate.
Or remember, there's I don't know how many crimes are filed every week almost by the county attorney.
Oh, yes.
And if every one of them stood trial, we just would bog down.
You actually lose the actual judicial
Yeah,
system. I
would lose the
imagine.
whole
Yeah.
system. Now, in order to get away from that, they do have what we call plea bargaining. On one part of it, though, the county attorney is known a lot of times to file a charge a little higher than probably he can prove.
So it comes down to
So
closer,
when
okay.
they argue, the defense attorney goes up and says, I don't think he can prove it, and so they agree that they will take not the top one. Let's say it was a Class B felony, but he says, I can prove without a doubt the Class C felony. So they let him plead guilty to the Class C felony.
Which is what they were after to begin with in the first place.
Basically, they were hoping to get that.
But then again, in your sentencing that you again don't have control over, 25 years so often seems to be that they're eligible for parole in 5 or 6 years.
well, you gotta
Which you
remem-
can't control again. That's just
No, that's the board of
judicial
parole.
system. Yeah.
But
yeah.
remember this, that Fort Madison is way overfilled. Anamasa, which is reformatory, is way overstocked. Mount Pleasant, which used to be the mental health place,
Mhm.
is full of prisoners now. And every place they can put them. And they're way overstocked. So any time that you send somebody up and fail to give them probation or whatever, they got to release somebody. And that's
Gotta have room.
why they get out early like that.
And I don't know an answer, nor do you. Obviously, if you were that capable, you could present it and maybe get it worked out. But going back to your days on the bench, that wasn't quite as prominent then, was it? You didn't have near. In other words, criminal action has picked up that much, population's picked up that much, that we had that many more cases
It's unbelievable.
than you had.
It's unbelievable.
So you
No,
didn't have to
no.
get into plea bargaining that frequently. Maybe toward the end you would have. But back in your early times, I'm sure, or even when you practiced, I'm sure if you had a defendant, you didn't go in with any, maybe plea bargaining wasn't even, I'm sure it's always been in the
It was-
dictionary of law, but it's something that wasn't utilized that often.
No, it's, well, I would say that the number of crimes have probably quadrupled since I went on the bench.
That's fantastic.
And it's unbelievable.
It really is. What do we do? What is an answer? I know everyone is seeking an answer, and
I think of, I don't have, or I didn't have like drunken driving cases. We didn't have those.
Oh, you didn't?
No. The associate court gets those.
okay.
But back when I think when I first went on the bench, you heard about it once in the blue moon or something like that. Now almost every night you pick up the paper.
Yes.
There's somebody, two of them, maybe three of them.
Yes.
For OWI.
Yes.
So it's,
Very. Okay, you opened up a little can of worms, as it were, there. Can you kind of briefly explain, because I don't know, and I'm sure a lot of us don't, what is the difference between the associate court and your court that you were a judge? And in other words, you just made mention that you didn't have to hear those cases. How are they adjudicated?
the associate court gets the misdemeanors, as we call them.
Strictly. Oh, that's a misdemeanor.
And the felonies go to the district court.
Okay, that's the difference between the two
Yeah,
courts now.
right.
Okay.
Except that they have a terrific amount of cases because they have the speeding, they have all of the misdemeanors. It's it's almost unbelievable at the number of cases that they
Yes,
handle.
like you say, it's, if you read in the paper, the district court and the different court actions that are
Yeah,
on, and I
it's-
mean, something they have nowadays, I don't believe they had in your day either, is, what's the court where I can go sue you in a separate little action of
The small claims.
small claims?
Yeah.
Was that,
that's,
was that open when you were?
No, that's
new too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a good thing. It's
Oh,
a
yes,
wonderful
it
thing,
takes a little pressure off
Oh,
of,
much,
of the
yeah.
associate. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
in your court,
Yeah.
of course, but.
No, it was a good thing when they adopted that. And
Yes.
you can go in without an attorney. You can just go in and
Well, you represent
very
yourself.
informal. You explain your side of it, and the other guy comes in and explains their side, and it's a little like I've never seen it on television. Judge Walper, is that his name?
Well, I was going to bring that up. Would you like to be Judge Wapner, and I'll be Doug Llewellyn and be your mouthpiece, you know, stand outside and talk to him? Would you like to get into that, Judge?
Well, I've never watched it because it's always on when we were working. See,
Yeah, uh-huh.
but that's basically what it is.
It is.
Yeah, it's nice.
Something like that, which I do get fascinated watching that, but as they say, it has nothing to do with the legal action. You're just going before it and asking him, and he's a retired judge, as yourself, and makes decisions.
But they apply the real law.
Yeah,
But it's informal in the
very
sense
informal, very
that
informal.
you can, one side can say what they think, the other side can say
Oh,
what
yeah,
they
they
think.
do, too.
Yeah.
And he jumps on him. I mean, he gets rather vehement sometimes with him,
Oh,
talking out of turn or what have you, which I assume has to be done
It
sometimes.
has to be done. Yeah, you have to have control of your court.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Did you have any outbursts in your courts that were outstanding in your mind? I mean, where anyone cursed you or made...
No, but
Didn't get
the
quite-
attorneys get cursing themselves once in a while.
Yeah.
So usually we say, well, let's take a recess.
Take a little time off and
And-
get away from the bench, let them cool off a bit.
And let them cool off. And,
Yeah.
that's basically what it is. Yeah.
I imagine, talking about that, I can imagine those cloaks that you had to wear got warm sometimes, too, weren't they?
Yeah, they could be.
They
Especially
looked a little bit, you know.
originally, see, we didn't have the air conditioning in the courthouse. All you had was a few fans up there.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the old days.
The door, windows open and the fans blowing.
Blowing, and it
And
got,
that's all
it
you
got
had.
hot. Yeah, it got
People
hot.
sitting out
Yeah.
in the audience fanning themselves.
We didn't have the business in that you have now.
No, again, right back to the fact that you were busy to the degree of being occupied. I don't think you had that much time off per se. I mean, you were in court maybe not every day, but yeah, I mean, you had a full schedule most of the time.
Most of the time,
Yeah.
and if something settled, then you could work on a case that you'd had before. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's where the stress sometimes comes in. See, they set cases, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And if the case settles, then fine, you can work on something else. But if it doesn't, then you've got to go right to your next case and your next case, and they build up on you
Uh-huh.
so that you got to come back to them later.
And then I'll refresh that all back over again.
And that's when Saturdays and Sundays come in.
Oh,
Too.
really?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
actually
yes,
had
yes.
sessions on Saturday?
No.
Oh.
Working on them,
I see.
making
You
your
had-
decisions
You
afterwards.
had to
yeah.
make your judgmental
Decisions.
decisions at home or wherever you were at the time.
Well, yeah. The thing about it, I think, is that you had time, as a rule, to do it, but sometimes when they bunch up on you, you would have to let them accumulate and then take the extra time to do it on that.
Mind-boggling. You mentioned something too. Curious, I got to ask you this. You mentioned stress. Did you know stress back in those days?
Oh yeah,
The word.
No,
it's
no,
so
no,
predominant
no,
now. I know
no,
we're all
no,
talking of stress, and you mentioned that, and it was a stress, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
although you weren't aware of what it was called. The doctor hadn't come up with that particular word yet, I don't think.
Originally, I don't think that there was that stress to start with, but as time went on, the cases built up. More and more cases, more and more criminal cases, more and more civil cases, more and more
Well, I'd
divorces.
say you fared well, Judge. I mean, you are very amiable and very joyful yet. I mean, in your life, I mean, I have occasions to be in the same company, and you're, hey, you know, just right with everything. I mean, you know, you're not war-torn from the
No, you-
work previously. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It could be. As
You-
many decisions you had to make. My gracious.
You learned not to take them home with you,
Yeah.
and when they're through, they're through. You forget
Drop
about
'em out.
Drop them out, yeah.
It's great you could do that.
It's-
Okay, now, you're retired.
Right.
Learned something today I didn't know. You are recently retired. I had in my mind that your retirement had actually started earlier, and you explained to me that technically you went into what is called senior
Judge, yes.
senior judge,
1980.
which meant then you only worked 3 months? Or
You-
filled in, is that what you did?
You filled it 3 months, yeah.
Uh-huh.
If somebody was sick, you took their caseload. If somebody was on vacation, you took their caseload and things like that.
So realistically, right, I think you mentioned you now have been actually fully retired a little over a year.
A little
July,
over- Last
would have
July.
been 1 year.
1991, right.
And what was the date of your retirement?
July 26th, my birthday.
That's what I wanted to bring up. That was a birthday, so
Yeah.
you had a two-way celebration, birthday and retirement.
Goodbye, and here's a birthday. Happy birthday.
Out you go.
Out you go, yeah.
I don't think you miss it, do you?
You do, actually. This sounds funny, but you do. It's
Well, I suppose.
the routine. There was a
Yeah,
routine to it
yeah.
that you kind of missed.
Well, like I say, I think you fared quite well, really, over
Thank
the
you.
years. My goodness, you look good. You know, and you enjoy life. I know you enjoy fishing yet. You still attend somewhere of your desire in the Minnesota area and fish with the wife. I think you go up and spend a couple of weeks. I don't know the exact
Spent a
time.
month up there.
You spend a month up there.
When I was appointed, they gave me the month of August off. That was my vacation.
So that started a while back. The fishing
Yeah.
is not something
28
new.
years ago now.
Okay.
So we went up there 28 and we went up there ever since.
I see.
The fish have got so they know us,
How
and
about
they
that?
don't bite.
I've seen him go
And,
away. Still
but
relax-
it's nice up there.
The
yeah.
relaxation and everything
Right.
you still enjoy. You go back to the same place each
Same
time?
place, yeah, we go
Obviously
back,
they do.
yeah.
The fish wouldn't know you, right?
Otherwise, yeah. It's,
Right. I think there's some other animal in the area that look forward to your visits frequently. You return to the courthouse very frequently. I don't know how many years now. 18, did I hear, or something like that? You go down and feed the squirrels
yeah.
in the courthouse square. I think they're waiting for you, each and every one of them individually. You almost probably have them named by now, right?
No,
Not quite that far.
I haven't got that far yet, though. No, I think about 28 years ago, I can't remember. I think it was a fellow named Forrest Beckman put up, it's like a nail that you can put the corn cob on.
I remember. Forrest.
Okay, and then I used to, as I'd drive along, I'd see where they fell off of different wagons or trucks. I'd pick them up and I'd take them up and put them. And then, there was a board of supervisors that were farmers. They got so they would bring me in corn. And then I got so I'd put them up every morning when I go down to the courthouse.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I know many people have made comments that they've seen the judge down feeding the squirrels at the courthouse. I think it's great. It's humanitarian. So you don't hunt, do you?
No, I don't have that.
Obviously, that wouldn't coincide with each other too well that way. Okay, we have one other, what do you want to call it, asset that you've enjoyed in the last few years too. I guess it would have been since you went on a 3-month tournament or whatever you call going into court, going to Florida and enjoying some time. Or how long has that been in force?
I think we went down, our first year was 83.
83. So again,
January and February, I think, and then
Okay.
now we go down January, February, and March.
Well, that's great. I know I have the great pleasure of seeing you once down there. Where do
Yeah.
you go? Where is your headquarters per se in Florida?
We're on A1A, it's on the Atlantic side,
Oh, you're
between
Atlantic,
Vero
okay.
Beach and Fort Pierce.
Okay, surely.
We go
So
up and cheer the Dodgers on for their spring
There you
practice.
go. I
Yeah.
get to cheer the Cardinals on
Yeah.
St. Pete. We get to meet once a year, like I say, at the Muscatine Day, which is well attended down there. We enjoy that very much.
176, I think. they
Yes,
said,
and
yeah.
we're looking forward this year to entertaining 200 at the Treasure Island.
Doctor and McLean, is it? Doc, who's in charge of it?
You're saying
McLean. Not McLean.
No, not McLean. That's a different thing.
The optometrist.
McLennan.
McLennan.
Yeah,
McLennan.
Dr.
We'll get it.
McLennan will
We're both getting old here because
It's Seasoned Citizen Day.
Yeah, Senior
That's
Citizen.
what we're doing here.
we're
so-
having trouble with our
Well,
names,
no
so.
problems.
But they have it this year, as I understand it.
Yes, they're going to entertain this year, and like I say, I haven't been there yet, but I've been told that there's a meeting place that they've already adjudged and going to, and I can't remember, it's over by Tampa International Airport. That much I know, I can't remember the name of it. At the moment, it's not important to people here anyhow, I'm sure. Unless we'd like to come down, you're sure welcome to come down anytime. We'd be happy to see you. What do you do in Florida? You already told me you don't fish. There, you're fishing, you set for Minnesota.
Yeah, I walk the beach. I'm a
Walk the
beachcomber.
beach. You're a beachcomber.
Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great.
Bob
Many
Toberg.
sights there.
Bob Toberg's down there about the usual
Yes.
time, and he's down below me.
You
He
meet.
walks up and we meet and we walk the beach.
Great.
There are a lot of
That's
fishermen
great.
we know, we talk to, and
Well, you have a lot of people meet on the beach, believe me.
Yeah.
Fascinating,
Fascinating.
fascinating area to be with people, really. Well, I can't think of anything else. I'm trying to think of something in judgmental department, and I can't come up with anything. Do you have anything you want to add to the years that you've enjoyed? And you obviously have enjoyed being on the bench. Oh, one thing I know I wanted to bring up in the interim here. I understand that you aren't necessarily elected, but I think most people recall it will say on a ballot many times, should we retain
should we retain, yes.
Judge whoever
Yeah.
for another 3 years usually?
6.
6 years, okay. Yes or no, is that simple?
It's simple, yeah.
And you said you've only seen, what, maybe two?
2, I think 2 people were.
Actually, people said no, and they were dismissed. Or I guess you just aren't dismissed.
You're just
no
not
longer
at
there.
yeah, it's vacant and
Gone,
you're out.
and someone
yeah,
else is
yeah,
appointed
it's-
in lieu of that. Again, by the governor.
Yeah, but what they
Through the
do is
commission.
they have, the commission say that there are 12 doctors, not doctors, what am I talking about? 12 lawyers
Better
from the
be lawyers.
district and 12 non-lawyers.
Mhm.
And then anybody who was interested in can appear before them.
Oh.
And they decide on 2 people. Now, if it's Supreme
Present
Court,
to the governor.
Yeah, if it's
Okay.
Supreme Court, it's a little different because
Mhm. Oh,
3
yeah.
of them goes up. Then the governor picks from those 2, and that's how it goes.
Okay. Who was presently on the bench here?
Jack Burns.
Oh, sure.
Judge Burns.
Sure, Judge Burns. Luckily, I only know that from reading the paper.
Yeah.
I don't
He's
have that occasion to have to face him. In this case, fortunate that way, I guess. But I've tried to be.
But he's
pretty
been around for
law-abiding.
about 25 years, too.
Well, he started out as a local, didn't he?
He was a municipal
call-
court judge.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what I'm
they
saying,
changed it
municipal.
from municipal
Then
to associate.
And then
And then he went from there to the district court, yeah.
he's a district, and then there's someone again in the Clinton area.
Yeah.
Now, just briefly on the Cedar. Now, do they have someone there too, like they do have, or
Oh, yeah,
there's a man there also then?
He spends 2 weeks of whenever he's there, and then they come down for the last 2 weeks of Muscatine.
Oh, okay.
So that's the way it works. One thing I was going to point out to you, which is kind of interesting,
Okay.
that, you talk about the prisons and all this and that.
Mhm.
They tell us now that it costs $20,000 a year to keep somebody down in Fort Madison. And you can go to Harvard Law School or wherever you want to go for $20,000.
How do we get them to understand that, though?
Well, that's the point. is-
It's in the paper. I've seen that.
And
particular
another
thing.
thing that's interesting, too, a lot of times the people say, well, you let them out too soon.
Yeah.
But the answer to that is build more prisons. But if you were to have an election today
Or
or
you-
tomorrow, would you
No.
vote for?
I've already answered no.
No, okay.
To build more jails?
No jails. They cost about $20,000. Oh, they're expensive because they have security and everything involved in it. Yeah.
Well,
So
Judge, I wish we had the answer. We'd certainly be happy to present it, but I don't think we do, so we'll just have to forget it and take this time to thank you so much for taking time to visit with us. We certainly enjoyed it and appreciated it.
it's been a pleasure, except the lights are hot.
Get a little warm. And we want to thank you for watching us again, as we love getting together every week with you on Seasoned Citizens Present. And we'd like to thank the cameramen who've been very adept today and working real well, and our director, and also to the Commission on Aging for sponsoring the program, and to Heritage Cablevision for letting us utilize their facilities. Thank you. We'll see you again.